A forensic accountant is very different from a traditional accountant. When you think of a traditional accountant, they're typically people who do tax returns, prepare financial statement audits, but what forensic accountants do really span what we call non-traditional services, anything those other traditional accountants won't touch. For our purposes, that's fraud investigation. In the E-MDT meetings, we have a number of roles, but the first is to participate as much as we can and answer questions about a certain case. We look at the facts of a case, what documents we might want to request in order to get to the bottom of whether financial exploitation has occurred. We might give advice on what steps to take next in an investigation, and based on our experiences across the teams, maybe some best practices or recommendations for how to put the best protections in place financially for a client.
And it's finding that sort of what's going on in this situation, and once you finally find it, it's that click where you're like, yes, we're able to figure out what's going on, and now we're able to help that individual.
For the most part, we're involved in financial exploitation that involves a trusted other, whether that is a friend, a relative, an agent in a power of attorney relationship, a fiduciary. We're looking through financial records and seeing how much did that individual steal, how did they steal, and working with the team to figure out what comes next. The types of cases that we get involved with it depends on the desired outcome, right? Sometimes we are involved in a case if criminal prosecution is desired, and we need to produce a forensic accounting report or an expert witness report for that, to that end. Sometimes we get involved in guardianship cases or other civil cases.
Yeah, the main one really is like client understanding. Is a lot of the times a client will be sending some sums of money they think is very minuscule, and then we're able to figure out like how much they're sending, how often. We're able to kind of total it up and sort of show them really that, you know, it's a lot more. It's not just $100 every month.
Sometimes a victim doesn't want to acknowledge that they are being exploited, or they recognize that they did allow an individual to have $100 here and there, but it wasn't supposed to be $30,000. And so maybe they can make other arrangements for their relationship with that individual that protects more of their assets. The beauty of the team is that we can come up with some really creative solutions for the forensic accountant's report that maybe sometimes isn't a legal outcome, but we have on some of our teams representatives from the tax office. If a suspect is receiving money, they're probably not reporting that as income, and maybe they should. Sometimes we're able to drop the report off, or give it to someone in the public benefits office. Same thing, the suspect is receiving this money, they're also receiving public benefits and not claiming this. That is a way we get involved.
And then sort of the other aspect of it is, a lot of the times money will just disappear, and we're able to kind of figure it out, how much money and like where it might have gone to, and we're able to kind of point financial institutions or other individuals that have subpoena power and who are able to sort of locate, we were able to find this sum of money, and according to the bank records, it says it went here, so maybe you guys can contact the bank with, more authority that other individuals on the team might have, and they're able to sort of dig in deeper. So it's just kind of steering individuals in the right direction. Yeah.
And in terms of outcome, sometimes the outcome is just supporting adult protective services or supporting law enforcement in an initial investigation. Maybe it doesn't wind up in prosecution or guardianship. It just allows the professional to wrap their head around the case and realize, is this a case I can move forward with or not? I think the benefit is to our role as forensic accountants to the agencies that participate on the team is that back office function. You don't have to go through those financial records anymore. Those boxes don't need to sit behind your desk or under your desk. Send them to us and we'll take care of the rest.
We're able to produce a report that sort of shows in 1 to 2 to 3 pages, this is the highlight reel of what's going on, So instead of looking at those thousands of pages, we're able to just put that into, the first 3 pages of our report, and then there's more detail behind that report.
Referrals to the forensic accountants come through the E-MDT coordinator from the participating agencies. So if you are protective services or you are a financial institution representative, law enforcement officer who belongs to a team, you can contact the coordinator who will link you up with the forensic accountants. Our cases have a kind of standard workflow, as we call it. We receive the records, whether they come in as hard copy documents in the mail, whether they come in as scanned PDFs, or even in some cases a database or Excel spreadsheet of transactions. We get that data into our software programs that read PDF data and turn it into a database of transactions. From there, we're able to run analytics like what bills are we seeing every month being paid, what bills are not being paid, what look like normal expenses and what are not. That's the spending side of the house. On the deposit side of the house, we're looking for what is regular income. Is it hitting the account every month, or is it being diverted elsewhere? And what other assets might be out there.
And the change in patterns, whether or not there were ATM transactions occurring before in the account and now there are, or every bill was paid by checks and now it's paid automatically, and now we're seeing twice the amount of bills per month, even through the same payee. Time Warner bill is doubling every month. Turns out there's 2 Time Warner bills every month. We're no longer seeing taxes being paid out of the account. Is their house in arrears? Is everything up to date? Is the bills being paid? As a lot of the times with a power of attorney, that is their duty, is to make sure bills are paid.
And that's all information we can take back to the team and say, okay, based on the transaction data, here's what we found. Where do we go next? In some cases, we're just turning over a schedule of all of the ins and outs, everything that came in to the bank account during the period and everything that went out. And in other cases, we are preparing a full-fledged forensic accountant's report that we can go and testify on based on the needs of the case. Not every case ends in criminal prosecution. When we're able to put our findings together and just demonstrate this agent isn't living up to, as you say, their responsibilities. Maybe they don't want to pursue anything criminal right now, but at least we can try to pursue some civil remedy that isolates the suspect and financial authority from the victim. One thing that we can't do, which I think gets confused sometimes, is we don't have the power to request records. We're relying on the records that people provide to us. And when I say people, I mean participating agencies. Whoever has the authority to access those records and turn them over, that's who we have to rely on. That's through Adult Protective Services, because they have authority to request those records. And it's also through law enforcement. Of course, they have the power of subpoena. So sometimes we get involved prior to the subpoena process, where we're going through the records that we know exist to figure out what else do we need to request as part of this investigation. And sometimes we're involved after the fact. The subpoenas have already been issued, and now we're just compiling all of that data. In some cases, we may find we need additional records. In others, at that point, it's, this case, here's how much money was stolen. Are we dealing with a grand larceny 2? What is the next step for us? So that's how we cooperate generally with law enforcement. And the data that we find can help them go out and interview suspects, because we have a list of all the transactions that we've identified as suspicious, and the investigator can go through them with the suspect or target one by one. Same thing on the client side. They can go and sit with the client and say, do you recognize this transaction? Is this something that you authorized? Whatever they need to support their investigation on the financial side, we can provide.
At face value, when someone approaches an investigator, it might not look like there's anything going on, but we're able to kind of get the records in before subpoena and show the investigators hey, there is some sort of fraud going on here. Let's get the subpoenas out. Let's dig a little bit deeper. No matter how minuscule something might seem, fraud is still fraud. Because a lot of times that little thing might open up a whole nother door, a whole nother asset. That tiny piece that we just look into ends up being this whole rabbit hole of new information.
And we work together, and this is especially for the prosecutors and the civil attorneys who are pursuing guardianship. So we work really closely as the case moves along in the legal process, whatever that may be, to have the best product for the result we're trying to achieve. And when I started down this path 13 years ago, I just felt like it was something that let me use my skills and experience on something that would help real individuals. And a traditional forensic accounting engagement, you're generally helping a business, or an organization. And this was, you had a direct impact on a human life. And I just found that so rewarding. And it really has been, especially to build a practice and bring people on board that have the same passion, and on the teams work alongside advocates just like you. It's really rewarding.